So today I want to share the idea of nested resources that is such a lovely, to me, it's so shamanic and animist and deep and multidimensional, but it's also just the reality of just the biological natural fractal of our reality in which we live. And that is that there are so many levels and layers of resource that we can call upon. And it's really important, especially to remember this during times when there is chaos or challenge that's happening, in particular in a certain area, because then we can draw on resources from the other areas to charge and bring help and support to the area that's a little bit weaker or going through a shift or some kind of challenging circumstance, kind of like in nature, if there's like an injury to the body or to the soil or to a plant or to something in the natural system, resources that are healthy can kind of send, whether it's like the white blood cells of the immune system coming to work on a cut, or whether it's, the mushrooms and the fungi on the roots gathering to help repair and restore, like where things have been cut or burnt in the forest. Um, just being aware of the way that, first of all, nature sends its resources, its healing balm to an area that's injured. And so just to kind of widen our own like lens of what's possible in that, it's a really lovely thing to think of. Now, I really like the phrase nested because, um, when I tap into it, I feel it in my soma. I feel the sense of the first skin and container of my boundary, my skin boundary, my body as a beautiful and like holding space for a lot of alchemy and a lot of beauty and a lot of things that go on inside this skin suit. You could even say like within the particular individual, like, we have several of those. We have our physical boundary, we have our energy, our mind, our emotion. And, people talk about the heart field and how it extends. I can't remember if it's 8 or 10 feet out beyond us. And so even the individual field, one could say, depending on the system one is using, is actually much larger than just the boundary of the skin. But for the purpose of even just the dense layer, like that in itself can be a resource to feel the whole ecosystem of the body that is the individual organism. And there's various resources that can be called on within that. And I'm not going to go deeper into that right now because in this video, I just want to talk about the different layers, this being sort of the first, our own like biological body mind. And before I go on to the rest, I just want to thank anthropologist Darcia Narvaez for the term nestedness. And she wrote the book about the nested pathway and the sort of idea that that is actually what we are returning to in order to heal the trauma of colonialism and patriarchy and collective soul loss, you could say, but just like loss of our sense of being at home on the planet and with each other is our loss of nestedness, which is a biological function that we can see in other animal species, and we can see it in nature, and it is in our nature too. And so working our way back to nestedness is kind of the solution for rehoming ourselves and resolving our trauma. And this also fits with my studies in organic intelligence, in which we also talk about the nestedness. And those are the layers of nest that I'm going to introduce here. But just to say, like, it's beautiful to think that, the way that we heal trauma, the way that we heal some kind of a rupture, some kind of injury, some kind of loss, some kind of overwhelm, some kind of disconnect in our wholeness whether that happened in our lives personally, whether it happened culturally, whether it's a big historical thing, a planetary thing, is not so much to go and like uh, dwell too much on the injury, although I think that avoiding and trying to suppress the injury does as much harm as being caught in it. But to instead invite that injury or that place of loss be re-nested and embedded in these layers of resource that are the felt sense of which the loss of is what created the wound and the injury in the first place. So the first of those being the individual biological system, which is so rich and so diverse, and people who talk about human biology or even energy medicine or body mind practices, somatic practices and therapies. Like there's a whole world. There's years of training just in this layer of nestedness, being nested in one's individual biological ecology and how powerful that is. But beyond that, then we also have the layer of our family. It's, our generally our biological family, the one that we grew up with, but and also the one that we can create in our life, whether that is like in a traditional sense with a partner and children and raising children, or whether that is uh, just that layer of intimate, tight-knit family structure bonding that is holding the place of our next of kin, like immediate day-to-day kin. And then beyond family, speaking of, my little family just came up here. She must have heard me talking about that. Beyond family, we have the clan, which is the sort of like wider, it would be like our community that is one layer out past our intimate family life, right? And so it could be our church, it could be our town, it could be our college, our school, our place of work, it could be our friend group, um, groups that we participate in that serve certain needs for us. So there's another layer of resource and support in our clan. Beyond our clan, we have our species, right? I mean, and there's many layers within all of this, right? Because we've got our country, like, and we might relate more to some of these and less to others. We might shift these throughout our life, right? But we have our species, the human species, and the way that we are connected to all humans on this planet through sharing the same species level experiences of being a human being on the earth, and how that's unique and distinct from, say, an animal being or a plant being, another kind of animal being or a plant being or a mineral. And beyond the species, then we have the planet level, which is the way that we do share with the minerals, the plants, the animals, the elements, air, fire, water, and earth. In Chinese medicine, they would add metal, but the way that we are part of this larger system, which is beyond just the human species, and the way that we interconnect with that and can call upon that for resourcing. And then beyond that, we have even beyond that, the cosmos or the cosmological resources. Some people might think of it as astrology or astronomy. It could even be just the resource of the sun that rises and sets each day and sets our circadian rhythm. And so it's coming all the way down through the layers and affecting our cells and our hormones, and our individual biology is connected to that. So all of these are, when I say that they're nested, they are influencing and forming each other and sending signals back and forth. There are conversations happening between the tiniest cells of our individual biology and these large cosmic bodies. And this is also the realm that you could go into the spiritual and sort of beyond life and death processes, and into sort of questions of soul and spirit and the veil and ancestry and what happens when we die and what continues, or where do we go when we dream, and all of those kinds of questions can be in that layer of cosmos. So there's a lot more to be said about all of these layers of nestedness, but I just wanted to drop in today to name these and just give like this little brief taste of this feeling, this felt sense that we can have of being nested within these layers of resource, and to think about the fact that these different layers of resource can be tapped into actively and consciously when we need to feel more resourced, when we're coming up against stuckness or uncertainty about how to move forward in a certain area. Maybe it's in a relationship with someone in our family. Maybe it's with a cultural thing. Maybe it's the some of the conversations happening around politics at the level of clan, or maybe it's a feeling of not trusting other humans, and feeling like, oh, it's easier to feel a sense of reliability with the trees or with the ocean. But just that whenever there is a struggle, there is value in getting curious and meeting the edge of that struggle in order to expand. But before we do that, we can open our perception to resource and draw upon what is stable, what is coming more easy, what is coming and flowing to us from another area of this wide nested fractal system of resource that is available to us. Um, and it could be going all the way out to cosmos. It could be coming in and just feeling the reliability of your own breath or your own blood moving through your veins. Um, and so just playing with finding where things are flowing, where things are circulating in this whole range of nested resources available to us. And as those resources come in, it makes it then easier to face whatever area is asking us to grow and show courage in, to expand and shift and transform wherever we might feel stuck. So I hope you find that inspiring, and love to hear any insights that you have if you ever want to leave a comment or drop me a line. And if you want to do any one-to-one coaching, just check out my website, enteringstream.com.